This is second budget meeting, special meeting, August 19th, 2024, 6 p.m. at the time and place is advertised. If you please stand and join us in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, and welcome everyone. Council, thank you. Our next order of business is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for comments to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Also, the Lewiston City Council.
Speak up, please.
Wow. I have a voice that does not project. That's fair. I'm glad you asked. So I will do my best, or I'll have somebody else with a bigger voice. Okay, in addition, the Lewiston City Council pledges to practice and promote civility within the governing body, advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the city of Lewiston. If you are here to give public testimony tonight, I would invite you to the standing microphone over there. Please introduce yourself and your city of residence. We don't need your physical address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. So with that, I would welcome any citizen comments.
Hi, my name is Jade Stanton, and my residence is Lewiston, Idaho. The reason I'm here tonight is for the proposed property tax increase that is on the agenda. A couple of questions. We are the second highest property taxes in the state of Idaho at 0.89%. And if you look at other communities like Coeur d'Alene, Moscow, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County is at 0.64%. And they are a thriving community with businesses, beautiful roads, streets, sidewalks, downtown. And if you look at our town, we are not thriving. I have asked this before. When St. Joe's Hospital turned to a profit organization and started paying taxes into the community, $2.5 million, I asked where those taxes went, and they said into the general fund. Sorry. And they said, but if you look at it, Macy's closed and Shopko closed and Kmart closed. Well, those are still buildings that are people are paying property taxes on. So where is the deficit in our community that we're needing to increase taxes so much? It is making it not livable, and people cannot afford to live in this community to bring businesses here and support their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Hi there. I'm Travis Speaks. I live in Lewiston. I'm with the Lewis Clark Association of Realtors, and our association is committed to safeguarding the rights of property owners and ensuring the homeownership remains an attainable goal. I'm here today to express my opposition to the proposed property tax increase. Lewiston is already one of the highest property tax areas in Idaho, and as residents, we are already feeling this burden. The Idaho State Tax Commission and Idaho Legislature have been working to lower property taxes across the state. And this proposed increase would counteract those efforts, making it even harder for homeowners to manage their finances. In our current economic climate, everyone is dealing with inflation and rising costs in essential items. When faced with these challenges, we can't simply ask for more money. We have to cut our spending and live within our means. I believe this city should adopt this same approach. Rather than increasing taxes, Lewiston should align with Idaho conservative principles by focusing on fiscal responsibility and reining in spending. Reducing non-essential expenditures and managing resources more effectively will better reflect the values of our state and provide much-needed relief to our residents. This proposed tax increase places an undue burden on our property owners and can pose a significant challenge for our elderly residents and especially those on fixed incomes and living on a tight budget. I urge the City Council to consider financial impact tax increases this will have on our community and members and explore alternative solutions that do not involve increasing fees or taxes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Loris Prophet. I live 4 blocks outside the city limits of Lewiston. I've been a licensed realtor and a member in good standing of the Lewis Clark Association of Realtors since 1994, 30 years. I'm here to just add my voice to those that have spoken and those that will speak, and those that are speaking in the community. We hear this every day. I took a little time today with my computer and I searched the multiple listing service. The IMLS that we subscribe to is not a statewide, but almost a statewide multiple listing service. And what I'm about to share with you is not scientific, but it is accurate. First, I went to the Association of Realtors website and found, and I knew this, but I wanted to make sure I knew, that our average price home sold in Nez Perce County this year is $367,000. So I took that $367,000 number, and that's Nez Perce County, but I only looked for houses in that price range in the city limits of Lewiston, and then I sorted through because some won't have a homeowner's exemption and some will. So I took those that were the closest to each other. They're not all 367,000, some slightly above, some slightly below, but that range, and I took out the ones that didn't have homeowners exemptions. There were 6. And then I took the property tax amount and averaged those. It was $3,278 a year, or $273 a month. Now, without changing my criteria, I took out the city of Lewiston and I plugged in Twin Falls. I just picked that arbitrarily because it's a similar sized town. You can buy a lot nicer house in Twin Falls than you can in Lewiston, Idaho for $367,000. There were 5 homes that met that same criteria. I did the same thing with taxes, sorted through those that didn't have homeowners exemptions, and I came up with $1,829 a year, or $152 a month. Now, I like percentages because they make sense. That's a 55% less tax dollar amount in Twin Falls than Lewiston. In recent years, I've sold many homes for people who are priced out. They build a dream home, or they've lived in a home a long time. A circumstance changes. Maybe they own their home outright, but they can no longer afford to live there because they can't pay their taxes. You, as our elected officials, have the opportunity to look for new ways of gathering revenue without displacing your citizens. We all know there are other ways to raise revenue and cut spending, as Travis said. And one of those ways, and you know where this is going because you all know who I am, is we can build new houses, and if we have more homes, then we all pay less. The city of Lewiston has a long-standing, and boy do I know this firsthand, reputation of being extremely difficult to work with when it comes to building new projects. But you, sitting up there, can change that, and that's a win-win. Raising taxes isn't a win for anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Eugene Duggar. I've lived in Lewiston since 1959. And I see things go worse and worse all the time. Our taxes are higher than Coeur d'Alene and Boise, with just part of the size. The projects and money that need to go to projects like back streets that need repaired very much, to stuff we don't need. I don't understand this. But I do thank you for your attention. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Mullally, and I've lived here my whole life in Lewiston. This isn't all about property tax, but it kind of circles around to that. There was an article in the paper about the selling of part of our cemetery, our city cemetery. My whole family is buried in that cemetery, and my plot is there, as well as one for my brother. It's a beautiful, serene place. I think we need to protect that for our generations to come. I hope you'll reconsider selling any part of it, because hopefully, if Lewiston's going to grow, so we're going to have more need for more places in the cemetery. Once it's gone, and the cemetery is what it is now. So I hope you'll reconsider that. I was pleased to see that the swimming pool downtown is going to go through, hopefully. We do need that for our kids downtown, because there is one in the orchards. However, I always see things about the community park. I'm not hearing a lot about that from you, but I'm hearing bits and pieces about the community park. I'm not sure we need a $90-some million park out in the orchards. We have a lot of parks. If we have a swimming pool in the orchards, a swimming pool downtown, our children have a place where they can go and they can swim. It just seems like the budget appeared to me to be a little out of balance, and I'm not sure how you balance that or who balances it, but there was a lot of money going to Parks and Recs and to the library, and $100,000 going to the cemetery. I'm wondering if maybe it would be a good idea to look at the budget and see if some of those areas could be balanced a little bit better. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Corey Johnson, and I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income, and I'm here again because I think you need to listen to the constituents out here about this property tax. And I've read Lewiston's long questionable history, and I'm saddened to realize that some things don't change. I see on the website, or I've seen on social media, Mayor Johnson had proclaimed that it's, quote, time for a change, unquote, and 3 bullet points. Number 1, lower tax burden. Number 2, provide an open door policy. And number 3, empower small business and entrepreneurs. Well, I agree with that, but I haven't seen it. And so there are some things that I think that are important to go through on the budget. And like everyone else has said, if these things don't change, I don't have family here, so I can get up and move whenever I want. But I have a house here, and I fixed it up. It was a rundown rental, and other people in the neighborhood have fixed up their property. And so I'm just worried that if things don't change, this is just going to end up to be a ghost town. And people are going to move, Twin Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Montana. So I'm just hoping that the mayor and the council, we all want a quote, according to the booklet, sustainable future, unquote, but the spending has to stop. I suggest a bipartisan commission to reevaluate budgets and department waste. More taxes are going to be coming out with this election that we have coming up, and it's not the time to be taking more money from my fixed income that, between the water bill that's, 3/4 of my yard is turf and 2/3 of my bill are fees. So I'm not watering very much. Barely the length of that table is getting watered, maybe twice a week. So some things just have to change, and I'm just requesting that you listen to the previous people and take into consideration that this town is a lot of senior citizens, and a lot of young families. So we need more businesses. We need some of those buildings that are empty, filled up with things that we can use, shopping, medical doctors, veterinaries. Our water and our wells are important. The police are important. We see what's going on across the river over there. So between the shelters and the parks, we need the safety for them to be around. I just think that we just need to have you all work a little safer and smarter and harder for us to make sure we can get through this hard time. And this is not the time for more property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Michelle Ralston, and I reside in Idaho. I am a single mother. I own 2 small businesses, and my property taxes have gone up 3 times the amount of when I bought my home a little over 5 years ago. I think that it's easy to, I didn't prepare anything, by the way. I really saw this about an hour ago, and I thought, I'm just going to go. I think it's really important to participate in your community. I think that it's very important to participate in the things that you feel need to be changed. That's why we vote. And so I just feel that I've gone to a lot of meetings where they explained how property taxes are derived, how much of your taxes go to this school and how much of them go to this and this and this and this. And those things make sense to me. What I don't understand is how more houses are built and house values are increased, so more collection is made, and there's still not enough money. So I think that what I'm here to say is I need you to take a look at this a little bit better. I work in budgets. I maintain people's annual budgets. I look at them all the time, and I'm constantly feeling that they need to be efficient. I need to be careful about every penny I spend, and I'm encouraging you to also think that. That's my money that I'm entrusting with you, entrusting you to spend in behalf of our community. And you live here too, so I'm sure that you have that same feeling, that it's so important to know exactly where every dollar is going and that it's being used in its best purpose. With that said, I strongly disagree with increasing property taxes, and I'm hoping that you'll find another way.
Thank you.
Else?
Pardon me, but I'd like to add a little saying, you're killing the golden goose. Period.
Else would like to speak? Okay, well, thank you, everyone, and I'm going to extend an invitation to all of you that spoke tonight to come down to City Hall. I'm there most every day, and I'd be happy to meet with you, talk to you about the budget, show how it's put together, show why taxes go up sometimes and how they may impact you or not impact you, but it would be my pleasure and honor to go over that with you and try to explain to you in a little bit more detail how that works, and then solicit your ideas for how we can make it better. So, and I mean that sincerely, so. Councilors, next we move to agenda, by active agenda, Roman numeral 4A ordinances. 1, second reading, A, ordinance 4926, considering amending ordinance 4894, the annual appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, appropriating additional monies that are to be received by the city of Lewiston, Idaho, in the sum of $15,518,630. Counselors?
Mayor,
Counselor?
I move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4926.
Second. Been moved by Counselor Schroeder, second by Council President Kleber, to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4926. Is there discussion or amendments? Council President Kleber? No?
I'll just throw this out there for people that are here. This is the appropriation for funds that were not expended last year that have found different homes. Is not raising anything. This is money that we have on hand. And it's just plugging it into next year's budget. Was that an okay?
Speak louder. Speak louder. I don't think they can still hear you.
Sorry.
Director Gordon, welcome.
Amy Gordon, City Treasurer. I'll just make a slight correction to that since you referred to me. This is the amending ordinance for the current year budget. So this doesn't have anything to do with next year or property taxes. This would be to either accept new revenue that was unplanned in the current year or to adjust the budget for some timing issues from projects from last year that needed to be carried forward into this year.
Thank you, Amy.
Counselor, further questions, comments?
No.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk Brocky?
Approving the second reading of ordinance number 4926, an ordinance of the City of Lewiston amending ordinance number 4894, the annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, appropriating additional monies that are to be received by the City of Lewiston, Idaho, in the sum of $15,518,630, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Clerk Rocky. Councilors, next we move to item B, ordinance 4923, be termed the 2025 annual appropriation ordinance, considering appropriating sums of money authorized by law and deemed necessary for all general and special municipal purposes of the City of Lewiston for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, and ending September 30, 2025. Councilor Spickelmeyer?
Yeah, I had a question on the water funds.
Councilor, we need a motion before we can discuss it.
Motion to what?
Councilor Klein?
I move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4923.
Second for discussion.
Been moved by Councilor Klein, seconded by Councilor Lichten. The second reading of ordinance number 4923. Councilor Spickelmeyer.
I guess a question for, on the water fund, the intake rebuilds, that DEQ ARPA is, I guess, for the director. So, Director, the 66,700,000, is that just the grant?
Public Works Director Dustin Johnson, yeah, that is just the DEQ ARPA allocation, what we have left over from the water plant loan, SRF money. So that is not, the project itself is, I think, $16 million, so that's not enough to cover everything, but we're working diligently to find alternative funding, or we'll break it out and build what we can. But that's just the loan or the DEQ money, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Johnson. Could I ask you, just so the council knows, could you give just a 60-second overview of what this project is? I think it's important that everybody hears what this project is about. Thank you.
All right, time me 60 seconds. So if you recall back, there was what we call state revolving fund loan that was approved by the voters, I think 2018-ish. There were multiple projects included in that, the water treatment plant, a new reservoir, a new well, and some water pipes that to be replaced. All of those have been completed. To some extent, water pipes are still a work in progress, except for the water intake. In the design analysis, we found that there's two intakes. There's a temporary intake that we're using on the Clearwater River now that was commissioned by the Army Corps of Engineers. The original true water intake that was also commissioned by the Army Corps of Engineers never has actually functioned. And so that was part of our diligence to try and find a way to get that to function. We did what we had. We only had the information we had at the time. We estimated, I think it was like in the $6 million range. Upon analysis, we found that it needed to be completely scrapped. The concrete was deficient, the design was deficient, and so the costs have exploded, not to any fault of our own. I mean, part of it was material price, part of it was just the design deficiencies of what was actually there. We have been in constant conversation with the DEQ, our federal delegation, our state delegation, to try and find a way to get the funds. The city's perspective is that this was something that was should have been taken care of when the dams were put in and the levees were put in, and it never actually functioned. So we are petitioning to have the Army Corps or some other federal delegation or federal source help us get that water intake functioning to the way it was intended when the levees went in the 70s. So I think that right around.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then Director, I think, excuse me, it might also just help them to understand that with the current temporary intake that is working, except when it's not, when the sediment comes. And when the sediment comes, that creates a real problem for the new water plant that we just built to spend tens of millions of dollars on. And if we suck all that sediment up and it gets over there with this temporary intake, we're going to spend a lot of money fixing it.
Yeah, we have the current technology is a filter membrane plant. So we basically suck the water through a straw, which has got tiny little pores that let the water pass through. And any sediment, sand, or anything that's in there that has back eddied into the location that we're currently drawing out of the water, out of the clear water, would cause damage, no matter how much we have sand separated and everything else, but it would damage our plant, and who knows how much it would cost to replace it.
Councilor Spickelmeyer?
Another question, and maybe for the director or Director Gordon, is I'm looking at the different costs that are associated with the property tax levies, and one of the big ones is the Transportation Capital Fund. And if you break that down, it has, the largest one is our arterial reconstruction of $2,350,000. So can you kind of break that down and what that buys us at that $2 million?
I will do my best to give you the perspective of Public Works, and Amy can clean up any mess that I leave behind. How about that? So going back, it would probably be about 3 years ago, the city was putting funds into the police retirement fund. That's a whole different fund that we've discussed a little bit through this budget process to make that fund whole. When that fund was determined to be whole, we pivoted and started putting, I think it was roughly $700,000 a year into what we were considering an arterial reconstruction program. That obviously is not going to be enough to rebuild all of our arterials and everything else in the city. And then last year, exactly this time, the council added, was it the assigned building fund, and took 1.6 and change out of that and assigned that to the arterial reconstruction fund. And so moving forward, the intent for that is projects like what we just did on 21st Street, Main Street, any overages for Bryden, Thane, any arterial within town. I can stand here and talk continuously about the street network that needs to be invested in, but I think the biggest focus needs to be on arterials, and that demonstrates within our pavement indexes. So that's generally where that fund has come from, the history of it, where it's going.
Okay, follow up.
Councilor Spickelmeyer?
And I guess that's where I was going, is I noticed in FY '22 and '23, it was 700, and then it jumped in last year. And I do remember moving the $1.6 million from there over to transportation fund, looking for projects and things like that. So that's why it's carried over with that large amount,
Yeah,
correct?
and it will, I mean, it is my understanding, it'll carry forward until a future council determines that it needs to go somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
Councilors, further discussion on the second reading? Councilor Lidkey?
Director Gordon.
I'm just gonna give a quick narrative so you maybe will know the direction I'm going. These numbers are available in the city budget guide, but I did just some math based on the proposed, and again, this is bringing forth a 3%, which gives us, as a council, the power to bring that back down to no increase or smaller increase, possibly even direct the staff to cut the budget below where it was before. But by doing the math, the top two things that we're spending money on are capital expenditures and wages and benefits. Followed, so at 37% of that budget is given to capital expenditures, 31% is to wages and benefits, followed closely by service charges. So, and that's on the expenditure side. So in the personnel cost by department, page 30 that you had presented, the grand totals of salary, I see an increase, and I understand that due to our collective bargaining agreements, we're kind of on the hook for that, but I do see an overtime amount of $463,000. That is not a significant jump, but can you tell me which departments are finding themselves in overtime that we're projecting almost $500,000 spend in overtime?
So the way the overtime budget works is it's a flat amount that carries forward year to year. It's not attached to individual positions, so it's not going to increase from cost of living adjustments, step increases. Those will only increase if a department puts a request in to increase those. We did build an increase in for fire this year to be reflective of where we were at in our labor negotiations at the time. So the activities within fire that utilize overtime, we built in a 5% increase on those overtime codes.
Then I'm assuming standby is also for police and or fire.
Standby, I don't think police or fire receive standby. It's technicians. So water, wastewater employees to have an employee available during the weekend if there's an emergency. And transit.
Thank you.
On call.
And that on-call makes sense. My next question is specific to holiday pay. It did grow by over $100,000 from the current budget. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, there's a very specific reason for that. And that amount that grew is not being paid by property taxes. It's being paid by city reserves. And it is also in conjunction with where we're at in labor negotiations with fire. The way that the contract's currently written is in October, we pay out the holiday pay for any holidays that occurred January of that year through December of that year. So we're paying for the holidays that occurred January through October when we make the payment, and then the holidays that will occur between that time and the end of the calendar year. So the majority of those holidays are being paid in the fiscal year after they occurred. And to just kind of clean that up to match the expense to the appropriate fiscal year, we had requested a revision in the contract that would allow us to do technically like 1 3/4 of holiday payments in 1 year to get them on the same cycle as a fiscal year. So going forward, they'll be paid in September for the holidays that occurred that fiscal year, October through September. So it's just a an expense to proper accounting period correction.
Last question in this area. So my concern, and again, this is, the cost of doing a business, even though this is the government, there, we still have employees. And what I am seeing though is that from fiscal year 23, we had a number of 33,100,000 and change. The increase to fiscal 24, we went from 33,100,000 to 33,700,000 and change thousand. We are now up to 35,511,000. I guess my question to you is, as leadership, as department heads, as we have to learn that Percy's really, we don't have a lot of control over what the state decides what to do with that. We know that medical insurance is growing at an astronomical rate, that we have very little control except to go out and sharpen our pencils and see if somebody will work to do better. What is the plan for us to be able to sustain this? Because my concern with is that I can slash the budget, but I'm either slashing services by cutting positions from departments that I've heard mentioned today that are of value, like police. Fires brought up a lot. What are we going to do to ensure that, I mean, that's a pretty significant jump just in wages and benefits. I see that happening year after year, and what's our plan? Because again, we're gonna be in constant competition with 31% of wages and benefits, 37% in capital expenditures, which to me is infrastructure and those kind of changes that need to occur and should have been occurring over, and I appreciate the information from the realtors. This has been going on for more than the last few years, and it would have been really great to have a plan 15 years ago. So what is our plan now? Do we have one? Or are we going to have to make hard decisions up here every year? Which, that's what we're paid for. So I'm not saying I won't do it. I just, is there something out there that you guys?
So I'll answer a few questions just to provide a little clarity to the growth in the payroll budget. Percy is mandated by the state. Those rates went up significantly this year. They went up in the current year, and then they're going up again next July. So we had to capture both of those rate increases in the 25 budget. And $500,000 of that increase approximately is just on the Percy rate increases. The city health insurance, we actually pay quite a bit under market because we're self-insured. We can also, because it's a self-funded plan, we have more control over the benefits, the cost of the plan. So even though there was a 2% increase on that health insurance premium this year, that's far less than what the market would have increased our rates. Workers' compensation, again, that's self-funded. We probably shouldn't have gone as many years without increasing those contributions year to year, so we didn't have to do such a significant adjustment for these last few years claim costs that we've seen. Some of that is we're trying to make those corrections using one-time funds rather than building it into the ongoing budget. So, you know, not all that increase that you see in the payroll budget is coming from property taxes or ongoing dollars. This is you're kind of come back in on my opinion here, but I think as directors, we need to review our staffing models anytime we have retirements or vacancies to see what works best. I've done it myself. We deploy new software to create efficiencies, and so every time we have an opportunity or a vacancy, that's a good opportunity for the director to sit down with the mayor and review staff plans and operations. And as a council, you can review programs and services and see what makes sense for the citizens and if they're cost effective.
Thank you, Director. And you can always share your opinion when it comes to how we figure out our finances and really anything. Mayor, my next questions are for Director Province.
Councilor Lickey, Director Province.
Director Province, Human Resources for the city. Apologize about my voice.
You're good. There's more allergens in the air than we have money. A joke. Can you tell me how many vacancies we have that are older than a year?
I can't say exactly older than a year, but we have had, I think we have 2 park labor positions that have been open in our Parks and Rec. Obviously, police have been recruiting consistently. So those are vacancies that we would like to fill. And so we've been trying diligently with the police department to fill those. I would say generally, our positions don't stay vacant that long. Unless we have a difficulty hiring the position due to technical or skills.
And can you clarify the vacancies in police? Are those mostly our dispatch?
That's gonna be our officers. I think we're fully up on dispatch. Is that correct? And then I think we are almost fully staffed with officers once our ones start this month, right? So down 2 officers, 1 dispatcher, which is significantly better than we've seen it. So happy about that.
Then can you, the parks, you said there was 2 maintenance
Yeah, there's
positions?
2 park grounds maintenance laborers that have been open and not filled.
And I don't see Director Barker, but maybe somebody can answer this. Are we still using,
Counselor, I think Director Barker is supposed to be online. You could ask. I'm not sure if he's there, just if you need him.
are we still using red shirts to do a lot of that?
Yeah, I think they use the red shirts at the cemetery.
Can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, my voice isn't great either, so I'll try. We've put those those are our entry level positions that we created about 6-7 years ago to create some internal candidates when our tech positions came open. And at that time, it was a competitive position out in the public and people were applying. Part of our issue that we've had recently is it's one of the lowest paying positions in the city and we're not getting applicants. So one thing that we've done recently is we have some upcoming projected retirements. And so we've actually utilized some of that funding to create an internal person to potentially look at some consolidation within our department when we look to reorganize with those retirements. So the funding is getting used. It's not necessarily just sitting there, but yeah, that's been the battle, is trying to get qualified candidates to apply for that position.
And Director, would you introduce yourself for the audience and the record?
Sorry, yeah, Tim Barker, Parks and Rec Director for the city.
Follow up for Director
Counselor?
Barker. Thank you, Director Province. I'll try not to make you talk anymore. And I apologize, I meant to shoot you those questions. But Director Barker, we have in here that we're buying a mower. And I swear that we already bought a mower and it was in vouchers payable and we paid for it. Is this an additional mower or am I showing my senility?
Can you tell me again which mower that was you were looking at?
Well, there's no description in the current document that I have. It just says in fleet that there's a $700,000 number that includes a mower. Is that the mower for the?
Okay.
Could that be the
So the
T-mower for the golf course?
No, the mower that would be within fleet would be within parks, and that would be a replacement of a mower that we have. The previous mower was a golf course purchase.
Sorry, can I follow up?
Counselor?
The Toro that was well over $100,000 went to the parks or went to the golf course?
Rob's there and he can verify for me. I don't have that information in front of me. But I believe if you're talking about the one that, well, no, I'm sorry, there was one I think we had last spring that was approved, the bid was approved, but we haven't received that yet. We have 3 mowers that are out at all times. We have 180 developed acres that we maintain, and we have 2 large mowers, and then we have what we refer to as a trim mower. So kind of like an 11-foot mower is our smaller mower that's out in the park system, and all those are out at all times. And it also includes mowing of our right-of-way program.
Do you mind if I help out on this?
Director.
So the Amy Gordon, city treasurer, the mower that you're recalling that was approved in accounts payable vouchers this year was a carry forward from fiscal year 2023. We ordered it in 23. We had the budget for it in 23. We couldn't receive it until 2024. So that was one of the amendments to bring forward that into the 24 budget so we could pay for it upon receipt. The lawnmower, or the mower that's in the proposed 2025 budget would replace 2014 Toro mower with a cab. So one of the big mowers with a cab for the Parks Department. And it's in the budget at $155,000. It has a 1-year build time. So we'll order it in 2025. We'll probably have to amend the 2026 budget because we won't receive it till 2026.
Council President Kleber.
No, just to follow up on Councilor Lidke's, because we had a pretty long discussion about that last mower, as I recall. And I did support it, because, basically it was a full cab and all that. But seems to me like, I don't know why we're going through so many mowers. We're not talking inexpensive mowers either, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Director Barker.
can I just make one quick comment, just general kind of education comment? Tim Barker, Parks and Rec Director. When we put, and we work very closely with Fleet to evaluate the needs that are coming forward. We do pay into the fund each year as we have these pieces of equipment to be able to eventually replace them, and we don't replace them until they're needed to be replaced. And a lot of times if we delay some of these projects or these items, they become much more expensive because it's hard to get their parts and they're broken down a lot more. And like Director Gordon stated, not quite as long as the build time for a fire truck, but we have to look 2 years ahead to be able to plan for the next piece of equipment on a lot of these. And we'll delay those that we can delay.
Thank you, Director. Councilor Spickelmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a follow-up questions about that arterial, the capital for Director Gordon.
Amy Gordon, city treasurer.
So last year, as mentioned, we put $2.3 million in that arterial fund. So as of right now, this year, how much is remaining in that fund?
Oh,
Just a guess.
unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I thought I'd throw it up here just because you brought this up earlier, just to show a little something here. This is that slide you were just brought up earlier this evening. One thing I would like for the council to see, as well as the public, if you look at prior to 2022, the amount of property taxes going to capital transportation was very minimal. They were receiving about 330,000 annually, and that was going into their preservation budget. So where you do your annual preservation, your chip seal work, and no money was being put into that fund to set aside for larger arterial projects. So allocating funds to go towards arterial projects has just been a recent year occurrence. So that money is not being spent. It wasn't spent in 24 and it's not being spent in 25. It's being allocated and building up the reserve so it can go towards a large capital improvement project.
So that goes into my question, or my answer, I guess, or solution is that by adding another $2.3 million to it, or removing it or reducing it, it doesn't cut any projects out or affect anything other than the balance of the fund.
Some of those taxes are going towards some of the projects, towards the city's match on some of the projects that are in the budget. I would refer council to look at the capital pages of that council budget guide you guys received. The back 3 pages had a list of all the capital projects. So under capital transportation, you would see what's in there for capital transportation. It would potentially impact what we had to match projects. But I believe that we're setting aside about $1.5 million into reserves in fiscal year 25. So it's not all being reserved, but the majority of it's being reserved.
But that amount would balance the budget.
I mean, yes, to balance the budget and not fund any new requests, you would need to trim the budget by about $390,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Counselors, more questions? No questions.
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
can I have just an explanation again of what the property preservation account goes towards? You're here.
Sorry, is that for me?
Oh, okay.
I can answer
Okay,
that.
yeah, Tim Barker. Okay, thank you, Amy.
Amy Gordon, City Treasurer. The property preservation is a combination of the deferred maintenance account as well as the assigned building fund. I want to make certain I take that back. The property preservation account is facilities budget to maintain and do deferred maintenance projects on city facilities. The ongoing funding that has been allocated to that account in the current year was proposed to next year, and for many years prior to this year has been $130,000. In the current year, in the proposed year, and at least the previous year, the mayor and I have worked to put an additional funding of $250,000 in that each year, utilizing city reserves. So $130,000 is coming out of revenues, which would include property taxes, and then $250,000 of that is coming out of city reserves. And that allows the facilities to be able to do projects on city facilities. So replacing HVAC units, and Tim could probably speak better to what those funds are used for, but that's a general idea of what they're used for.
Thank you. One more question.
Counselor Forsman?
So it was mentioned about being able to move funds around as far as maybe taking from, Parks and Rec and or from the library and putting it into the cemetery. Is there any restrictions for us to do that?
So the way that the property taxes are allocated in your tax certification ordinance that you have before you, council can reallocate property tax dollars. But you have to remember, if you shift property tax dollars, so if you lower property taxes in a fund such as library, that's their only revenue source, you have to tell me what expenses you want to cut from the budget.
Thank you.
Counselor Lidke?
Sorry, Director Gordon. I was computing what you said about the library. My first question is, by law, do they get their own levy though, correct, the library?
So the property tax dollars that you levy for the library are under its own levy rate. But it is part of the city's overall property tax certification. Council can increase it, decrease it. The city's overall property taxes are subject to the 3% rule, and each individual levy rate has their own maximum amount you can levy within those categories, but we're not approaching that ceiling at all.
Follow up.
Counselor Lukey.
In the capital expenditure pages, in several sections, there's short-term assets.
So you'll see those in enterprise funds specifically, correct? Like water, wastewater, sanitation. So those are assets that would, like they're smaller assets like pumps, motors, generators. So they might not be like a project within their master plan, but they're assets that could break down and require replacements. And that provides them the budget to be able to replace those as needed.
There's somebody from fire here on Zoom.
Julian Sorrell, Division Chief, Fire Marshal.
Thanks, Julian. In the vehicle replacements, it includes one ambulance. I want to say that we went and picked up 2 ambulances a couple months ago that are supposed to be entered into our fleet. Is this a third ambulance, or have we not paid for both of those? Are we getting a third ambulance is my overall question.
You've actually got the wrong person to answer that question. Amy can answer that.
Amy Gordon, city treasurer. The city actually owns 7 ambulances. So we have them on a rotation so that we're not in a situation where we have to replace them all at one time. 7 ambulances, is that right? So the 2 that we paid for this year, they were actually ordered, I think, in 2022. There was almost a 2.5-year build time on those. There was a short window of opportunity where you could place an order, like a 30-day window that they would even allow you to kind of get in the hopper for placing those ambulances. So we escalated one. We were due to replace one that year. We included in that order the one that was scheduled to be replaced in 2024. The one in 2025 would be potentially received in 2026, potentially as late as 2027. It's just the way that the manufacturing is going on ambulances. Turnaround time on them, unfortunately.
Follow up.
Counselor Lukey.
We have 7 ambulances that are currently being used on a given, hopefully never at once, but they're available, correct? How many fire engines do we have?
Fire engines. We've got 3 first line, and one backup.
We have 4 fire.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't count the ladder truck. I'm a prevention division chief, so I don't get involved with operations very much. Forgive me.
You're good. We appreciate you showing up.
Yes.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out, we have 7 ambulances, and then I look at some of the things in the fire budget. We're doing a lot of out of the area transport. We do a lot of transport in another state. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how, again, for me, it's about sustainability. And so if these costs are going up, our revenue doesn't seem to be matching that. And I feel like we're doing a lot of work outside of the city of Lewiston where our taxpayers need these services. So I guess my concern is can we continue down this road? And I don't think you have an answer for that. I think that's an answer for the council to say, we got to look at this and what are we doing with our assets? Because I've seen more line items about Washington and out of the area than what we're doing here in our own city. So I guess that is a concern of mine that I think we need to look at. I don't think anybody's asked for anything extravagant. I think you've done a great job trying to control this as best we can with what we have, but I can't support a 3% increase. I don't know that I can support any increase because I think your opinion matches mine. We're in a tight spot, and I think we're gonna have to knuckle down and figure out what we can do to try to sustain this budget, because we don't know what comes October 1, and we certainly don't know what comes December 1st after a national election. But what we can do is figure out how to prevent that we don't have to start cutting services in a way that negatively affects the actual taxpayers of Lewiston. And I guess a follow-up question that I'd like by the third reading is, what does that look like when we are providing services outside of city limits? What do our mutual aid agreements look like? Are we hire people outside of city limits? Are we taking vehicles home? Are we able to manage those expenses in a way that seems a little more fiscally responsible? Because again, I look through this budget, it's hard to say no to a lot of these requests. They all link to better infrastructure, stormwater systems that aren't going to flood and wreck people's homes, repairs that have needed to happen for decades. We've got to do something. And I guess my ask is, can we do that? Can we get to, I know we can balance it at a 1.55% increase, balanced with what we're already spending. Julian, thank you. I don't have any more questions. I'm at a loss.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments, questions?
Mayor.
Counselor Forsman.
Currently, the building reserve fund, we're not actively funding anything with that, right? That's more of a savings for future projects.
That's correct. So in the budget, it shows that we have 5.4 million allocated to spend, but that's not spending any new money. It's spending money that's already in the account.
Okay. And if we cut from that budget, and then the following year, what happens? Does that budget stay cut and we can't add back to it to balance our budget?
So in prior years, there was part of the property taxes were being allocated to towards that fund. So I want to clarify some comments made earlier where it was mentioned that money was moved from that account to capital transportation, not actual money. The allocation of property tax dollars was shifted from that account to capital transportation. So meaning in that year, that's where the property tax dollars went. All the money that went into this account remains in this account unless it was spent on specific projects that meet the code definition for this account. So the city code provides the overall purpose of this account, which is to invest in city facilities and infrastructure. And so the money would need to be spent in that manner. But once you spent it, that what you have available will go down and no longer there to fund future projects unless you replenished it through property taxes or another revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Council President Kleberg.
Thank you. And Amy, I guess just this recent year, after the funding for the fire station, potential new fire station at Fifth and Bryden was canceled, there was over $7 million in that account, correct?
No, it never went above 6.4 million.
6.4?
So the current fiscal year is the first year that there were no property taxes put into that. And when we entered this year, we were at 6.4 million in that year. We've had about $1 million that's been encumbered for projects that have been approved by council this year.
Okay,
So this is an estimated amount too. I just want to clarify that. We estimate where we believe the account's going to be at the end of the year based off the projects council's approved.
no, that's fine. So again, I guess I'd just like to remind council that that fund was established for a new facility to be used by the fire department. And now we're a little bit back behind the 8 ball since build a fire department is not going to get any cheaper. I do have a question. This is probably the number one phone call I've been getting from citizens in this town, and I'm looking at this page here, general fund for the council is the United Airlines contract. Do we have an idea on what this year is going to cost us?
I do not know what this year is going to cost. We're trying to get all the invoices from United through end of June. And so I've reached out to them to get those invoices sent to us so that we would have a better idea, but I don't have them yet.
Yeah, we're still talking about plugging another $4 million into it.
So just to clarify, we don't have anything in 2025's budget for United Airlines or the airport. There's no support for airport operations in the 2025 proposed budget.
Okay,
The only thing that's in the budget is the amendment in the current year for the contract that council approved this year, which will expire at the end of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Lidke?
Just for clarification, the 1.6 million was being used, it was being put into the building fund, but a lot of it was funding things like community park projects. And we had Director Johnson in front of us saying he's trying to put Band-Aids throughout our city with a very small budget for improvements. I was actually the one that made the motion to remove that from going into the building fund and into transportation allocation so that we could start to build and finish a project that wasn't a Band-Aid, if the council is not remembering how that came about. That was my motion.
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
although I understand that the building reserve fund was originally for a possible fire station, we're looking at now trying to balance a budget and being faced with either cutting funds for other departments or raising people's property taxes and making it hard for them to be living. So I don't think it's unfair to have to, in these times, adjust our goals in order to try to just get through, and hopefully things will turn around. We will have more businesses coming here to offset our property taxes so that the homeowners aren't bearing the brunt of the property taxes, because that is in fact what is happening right now. But as you get bigger businesses, the more that offsets, and then the less the homeowner will have to pay in property taxes. Also more housing, that is also true. And that is why I bring that up, is we're looking at ways that we can balance this and look at and move things around and try to not have a property tax increase. And it's not unfair to look at a fund that is building higher than some others.
Thank you, Counselor. Counsel, I'm just going to wait while you have some more thought. Counsel, at this time, I would ask if there are any amendments. If not, I'm going to ask for your vote on the motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4923.
Mayor,
Counselor Lidke?
I don't know that I have a specific motion, line item by line item, but there is a page here where you present the 1.55. Can I make an amendment that you bring forward in the third reading what a balanced budget would look like so that then the council can look at specific line items if we were to try to get it lower than a balanced budget? So I'm not quite sure how to make an amendment in that fashion. I can name off all the items you listed as an example.
Is your request that we bring back the, to bring back an ordinance that had a 0% property tax increase or the 1.55%?
I'd like to see you get it to 1.55 for the third reading, and then unless somebody else wants to increase that, and then I'd like to look at it at the third reading, and I might get drastic and say, bring me back 0%. But I'd like some time to spend with the staff to see if we can figure it out so that I can present maybe even specific amendments to get it where it needs to be. But I'd like to see it at 1.55 in front of us.
So using the slide as an example, if we were to trim the property tax increase from 3% to 1.55, what I would do is just amend these ordinances so it removed all the items in column 2 and column 3. And that would basically be balancing the budget as it currently exists with no new request in it.
Councilor Spicklemeyer?
So I guess a question to direct to Councilor Licky is, with that, would that also, the request include not increasing the reserve spending?
I would. We'd have to see the.
Last year, they just moved everything out of that and moved it and covered it with reserve spending.
Right, but when we look at, we're just looking at property tax increase with that graph. So what Amy is saying is that 1.55% increase, we're taking 366,100 more of the general fund. It wouldn't touch any of the things that are being actually addressed by a reserve. It would be that they've had to use that much of taxpayer dollars to even balance the fund. So we'd have to have her show us what that would do with reserves, if anything, because what I'm seeing is that the column 2, column 3 is any and all new asks, whether they're ongoing or one time, correct?
Correct.
So
last week during my public hearing presentation, we went over several items that we adjust in the budget that are, so we go through and we make all the necessary payroll adjustments, adjustments to irrigation utilities, our internal service charges, workers' compensation, health insurance. So we make the adjustments for the things that currently exist that are going up, and that in order to maintain them, you have to increase the funding for them. So that 366 balances the budget for the budget as it exists today. So that's just the inflated cost of the budget. And so what I did is I said, well, what would the budget look like if we had a 3% property tax increase? What could we fund of the request departments made for additions to their budget, which is column 2 and column 3. So if we were to come back with ordinances that provided the 1.5% property tax increase, it would be removing column 2 and column 3. It would not change reserves.
Councilor Klein?
Amy, I was wondering if, is it possible to balance the budget with money from the general fund?
We've already utilized our ongoing revenues that reside in the general fund. So we wouldn't build, I don't know if I understand the question. I mean, the only way to do it would be to cut expenses. you know, and that would mean looking at what we have in our current year budget and removing programs, services, something that exists today.
Counselor?
So instead of cutting those things, we can't just pay for those things with general fund money.
Are you referring to like reserves?
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to identify where in the budget we can, where it's safe to fund those with reserves. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to fund something that's going to be ongoing year after year using reserves. Because then once your reserves get down to that minimum threshold, then you no longer have that revenue for that expense that continues to go. So we try to use reserves only for something that's going to be one time. That we're not building something in our budget that has an ongoing impact with no revenue to support it.
Director Gordon, I'm going to ask Counselor Klein if that answers her question completely, because we need to understand that. Counselor Lidke?
I think maybe what we need to clarify, and you can correct me, but so like the fire physicals is an ongoing, correct? Request that we would need to increase. In this list, we may not know what's gonna be ongoing as opposed to like the tilt trailer is a one-time purchase. But what I see in there is like streetlight replacements, which is hard for me to say cut those because people like to run into ours with no insurance and we need to replace them. And they're failing, just so I think maybe could we move some of, like, there's some requests for golf course improvements we could, which are coming out of reserve, that we could maybe then come back and fund things like that camera system or the street light replacements, et cetera, that may be identified right now as one time, even though we know that we're not gonna just replace streetlights one time, those are gonna come up again, but.
So yes, this list is a mix of ongoing items as well as one-time funding items. My thought process with that is if the proposed budget was adopted as is and these one-time items dropped off at the end of fiscal year 2025, it would help absorb any increases from inflation the following year. But you could certainly, if you wanted to keep these in the budget but not have to increase taxes to pay for them, you could shift them to reserves. I was trying to be conservative with, our reserves, mainly because I was trying to not risk us going below 90 days. So I try to be kind of balance out what we were using reserves to fund and then also funding some of it through other sources.
And I'm just looking at that column 2, which I feel it does have some important things, and it's about 107,000, I think, for the 0.45 on your previous slide. Total, but we could go through and make some exchanges with what's proposed in the reserve purchase fund.
Yes, so what we have listed there as reserves or funding, you guys don't have to keep those in the budget. You could remove those to put some of these items in here. You could add these to what reserves are funding to take them out of impact on the property taxes. That is to council's discretion on what you want to do.
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
I just want to make sure I understand. So if I made a motion to remove the recreation movie / projector into the reserves, is that under the reserves, right? Am I looking at that right? That future proposed expenditures.
I don't think we have the movie projector in the proposed budget. That was on the current year amendment list. And that was a donation that was received specifically for the purchase of a movie projector.
Oh, okay.
So that was paid for by a donation.
Yeah, because I see that obviously United Airlines contract was from last year's, it's from last year's budget put in and amended.
So I believe you're looking at the amendments to the
Yeah.
2024
I was
budget.
trying to look at the reserves of moving less, I don't want to say less important, but moving things out of the reserves and replacing them with maybe the headlight fixtures or replacement, like that, kind of swapping them out. Is that what you're saying? You could take what we were going to fund with the reserves, take that out, not fund it, and then grab something from here and put it, use the reserves to fund it.
So just for council, but more so the public's benefit, the public hearing, the slideshow that went along with the public hearing from last week, it was attached to the agenda packet from last week, and I believe we also have it attached to the current week's agenda packet, just in case anyone needs to go and look at this after this meeting concludes. The way I built the program, I funded these items from reserves. You don't have to keep them in the budget. Council can choose to remove these items to less than the amount of reserves we spend. You can add to this to increase the amount of reserves we're spending in the 2025 budget. Some of these items on this list are not ongoing, so they could be funded from reserves. All of these are requests, and council has within their budget binders a printout of every request made from departments, and on those it will tell you if it's an ongoing, a one-time. It will also tell you where it's being funded from currently in the proposed budget, so you could use those documents to help you with those decisions.
Thank you.
Counselor Spicklemeyer?
I guess my comments, for the council is, instead of cutting every department's things that they want or need, it's up to them to decide what that is. If we just reduce that arterial reconstruction fund by the $710,000 or $800,000, that would still leave it at $160,000 that would go into the fund. It would balance the budget, and all the departments would still get all the things they need.
Mayor?
Are you done, Counselor?
Yep, with my rant.
Thank you. Counselor Forsman?
Are you talking, which fund exactly, Spicklemeyer? Sorry, I mean, a lot of ask clarification.
It's in the capital allocations, the general allocations, it's capital fund, the transportation fund. It's part of that, of the 2.781 million, $2,350,000 of it's for the arterial reconstruction fund. That's the fund we moved the 1.6 last year to.
Yeah. Public transport, okay, thank you. Here.
Counselor Forsman?
If we did, as Counselor Spicklemeyer has said, does that not cut future transportation projects or risk us not being able to accommodate those?
So there's 2,781,000 allocated to capital transportation. Of that, 2,350,000 is being dedicated towards arterial reconstruction projects. So it would impact future projects, at least the timeline of how those could be implemented and done. Council did earlier this year approve the design contract on Main Street. So I know a lot of those property taxes were being looked at to fund potentially a bond to get that project done, so that we wouldn't have to ask taxpayers to approve a property tax increase to fund a bond. So it would, I think the project it could potentially impact would be that Main Street project.
Thank you.
I'd say we could still have one more shot at it next week.
Second reading, counselors, or further discussion or an amendment?
I'd like to make an amendment that staff bring an ordinance that shows a balanced budget of the 1.55 increase. I can't support removing 0.3 million because I can't see us having another catastrophic failure and Main Street needs reconstruction. I do think we can sharpen pencils and figure out how to do that. I think we have in reserves enough to kind of play back and forth with making sure those major requests that will benefit the citizens of Lewiston can be funded through reserves. So I'd like to see the ordinance brought back at 1.55% increase for our next attempt at getting this budget correct.
For sake of discussion, I'll go ahead and second.
It's been moved by Counselor Lidke, second by Council President Kleberg, to strike 0.45% and the 1% budget items and reduce the budget to a 1.55% property tax increase only in the amount of $366,100.
To the point of some of the comments, if I can speak to my motion. Again, I came to the city and we can argue about the price of a new fire station and what we walked away from. But again, I think at some point we had to make some prioritizations. And I think our streets, arterial roads being one of them, are capital improvements of a new water treatment plant and just brand new water that now has all sorts of issues we have to face with our intake, a failed reservoir, the things that we've seen just in our short time here. I think you cannot take away an investment for those arterial roads where we're already seeing structural damage on the roads are paving away because of stormwater issues. So we ticked off the public by saying we're going to have a new stormwater fund, and we have in place some capital improvements there, which I think goes hand in hand with these arterial improvements, but we have to have funding to be able to do that. I feel like in the time we've been here, the staff has done a great job at amendments of grants and donations and things like that, where we're increasing our revenue last year by 15 million alone. I think the mayor and the staff have done a great job of moving money into interest-bearing accounts that we've seen some issues there. The problem is we've built a budget that I don't know that we can fully sustain without cutting services. And whether we like it or not, services can come and go, but if roads fail and houses start to fall off our hills, we're not going to have a town. So we have to focus on those things. I don't want to say no to anybody. I have departments I have to look at and say, we just can't do that right now. And I get it, that it's not fun or easy, but we've kicked cans down the road. Now we need to kick a can and say, this is the can that needs kicked so that we can focus on the things that are truly affecting our city and not dream boards and all the things that we came into. And again, I would love all those things. I would love it. If I win the lottery, boy, am I buying all the toilets at Community Park, and my name's going to be on every one of them. But right now we have to make some hard decisions. And so if you can show me how we're going to fund Main Street that needs infrastructure deep down into the earth, 100-year-plus old pipes that are currently leaking, I'm all for it. But I can't support cutting that. I'm all about, if we want to fund and surplus some more land, and get rid of, I believe Director Barker said 180 acres that we're spending a lot of money on lawnmowers, and we can't staff 2 positions. You know, maybe we need to look at how big our britches can actually be, which is why we've proposed looking at a portion of the cemetery to make sure that we're making solid decisions to ensure we have a future. I think that's what we need to make this decision on.
You councilors or further, City Attorney Tangano?
Mayor, Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. I just wanted to clarify, Councilor Lidkey, your motion, is your motion to amend the proposed budget at the 1.55% as previously presented by the city treasurer? Are there further amendments to that? Because we do have to indicate which items are being stricken and reduced and which items are specifically being changed in the next proposed ordinance. So if there's any other items that need to be changed in accordance with your amendment beyond what was previously presented, we do need to identify those specifically.
You're not gonna give me the week to bring back those specifics?
If
I mean, I can go through them.
If we are going to move forward with the second reading of the ordinance as amended, we will need to make sure we have those
So
specific items.
as presented on, so column 2, column 3. Correct?
So I think,
Right?
I mean, we could take a recess and I could work out the math for the changes that would need to occur on the ordinance.
Amy, can I ask you to speak up so that we can all hear you, please?
If council wanted to proceed with the amendment, they were willing to take a recess, we could work through what the changes to the ordinance would need to be based off the direction that Councilor Lidkey provided.
Okay, council, will be at ease.
We can't all meet though, right?
Counselors, before going at ease, motion was made by Counselor Lickey, seconded by Council President Clayburgh, to reduce the property tax portion of the budget by 1.45%. And Counselor Lickey, I would ask if you would like to speak to your motion.
So to clarify, I would, in that removal of 1.45%, it would be a reduction of general funds under executive to a new amount of $385,290. In human resources, a reduction to new number of $581,130. And police protection to $9,762,490. In fire protection to $11,046,270. In the transportation fund, a reduction to a new number of $4,700,230. And in public transportation to an amount of $1,358,490.
For further discussion? Counselor Spickelmeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess in this, the 1.5, the reduction at hand and the order, I feel the city could support no increase in property taxes, so I won't be supporting this motion.
Counselors, further discussion? Further amendments?
Just to clarify that
Counselor Lickey?
this is a starting point. I think that we can also get to a 0%, but this is trying to get after ongoing expenses clarified, one-time expenditures, and then I think we need to look at positions as listed up on that particular in the 1% column is a position for a new transit driver that I believe we can wait on. These are questions that we can get clarified with staff over the next week, but I do believe that this is a step in the right direction where we can then look at where our reserve funds are going and come back to these figures and figure out if we can fill vacancies with these ongoing, because I do believe that many of these line items are important that we should look at, some that can be left alone. But this allows us, and I think really goads us into looking at, this is not a, one line item I do not believe fixes this moving forward. I believe that looking at this at a more granular level and pushing staff to really show us what those priorities are and what they can do, when they can wait and what they can't wait on, to get us maybe to that 0%. And that is my overall goal, but this is a step in the direction that helps us as council members spend the next week working with staff and the mayor to get us to a 0%. I think if that's our goal, then that's what we should be doing. But if we pass with 0 amendments tonight and we don't put in the work, I think we have to be the ones that are ready to answer to our constituents that said we weren't willing to put in the work to be where we need to be to hopefully try to start building some sustainability in this while still allowing for arterial roads and major projects that need to be completed over time.
Mayor?
Counselor Forsman?
I think I agree. I'm heading towards a 1%, or not 1%, excuse me, a 0%. And honestly, even tightening the budget even more. But I will say, obviously hearing the funds that we are gonna have to tighten the budget on, it doesn't feel good. Our police, our fire, obviously even human research, all of them deserve to be able to have adequate funding. And I wish that we weren't in a position that we are in now. But obviously our citizens are also struggling to live here under these property taxes and are even, I've heard people having to move out of Lewiston due to our property taxes, which doesn't help our property taxes anymore if we have people leaving. So I think this is a step in the right direction, and also highlighting what they're going to see in the future as far as what we're funding and what we're not able to fund. And I think it gives the public a good view of what this looks like and what we're faced with as a council. And that this is not an easy decision to be made on any side. And I think that we could, at the next session, even go tighter, but this is a step in the right direction, and I would agree with Councilor Licky on that.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, Council, I don't see any more. And so, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Clerk Brocky?
So that was an amendment, so I think we need to go back to the main motion to approve the second reading. As amended, so.
I think you can read the title of the bill as amended, unless you need dollar amounts on that.
Second reading as amended.
Okay. Counselor Kleberg?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 4923 as amended.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Kleberg, second by Counselor Forsman, to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4923 as amended. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Clerk Brocky?
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4923, an ordinance of the city of Lewiston to be termed the 2025 annual appropriation ordinance, appropriating sums of money authorized by law and deemed necessary for all general and special municipal purposes of the city of Lewiston, Idaho for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Councilors, next we move to item C, ordinance 4924, considering fixing and establishing the tax certification on all taxable properties situated within the corporate limits of the city of Lewiston for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025, for the purpose of providing and raising monies for municipal and corporate purposes, providing for the tax certification to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho,
In the amount of, what's the new amount?
in the amount of,
Amended.
I have it there. In the amount of $24,179,590, providing a certified copy of the 2025 annual appropriation ordinance to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho, as adopted by the city of Lewiston for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Director Gordon, this is an action item, so if you would like to say something, you're grimacing.
I think they want us to read it.
Mr. Mayor, Amy Gordon, City Treasurer. I believe you just read the amount at what the new amended amount would be, but to read it at the original amount and then amend the ordinance to marry the amendments made to the appropriations ordinance.
So read it at the original amount, and then we'll amend
And
it.
then council should consider amending it to complement the amendments that they made to the appropriations ordinance.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you for your help, everyone. I'm going to reread this. Item C, ordinance 4924, considering fixing and establishing the tax certification on all taxable properties situated within the corporate limits of the city of Lewiston for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025, for the purpose of providing and raising monies for municipal and corporate purposes, providing for the tax certification to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho, in the amount of $24,524,120, providing a certified copy of the 2025 annual appropriation ordinance to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho, as adopted by the city of Lewiston for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidkey.
I would move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4924.
Second. Second, sorry.
Mayor, for an
Moved by
amendment.
Councilor Lidkey, second by Councilor Schroeder to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4924. Councilor Lidkey.
I would move that we amend ordinance number 4924 to state under section 1, under the letter A, I would move that we amend the general fund amount and reduce it to $17,138,420, reducing the public transportation line item to $353,500, reducing line item under letter B, streets, to $4,945,000, and reduce the total amount to $24,179,590.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Lidkey, seconded by Councilor Forsman. Reduce the general fund amounts.
Mayor, can we repeat the total amount one more time, please?
I'm getting there, Councilor. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
It's been moved by Councilor Lidkey, seconded by Councilor Forsman to amend ordinance number 4924. The general fund would go from $17,234,410 down to $17,138,420. Public transportation would be reduced from $414,040 to $350,500. Special fund streets would go from $5,133,000 to $4,945,000. The total amount would change from $24,524,120 down to $24,179,590. Councilors, any questions? If not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. We're just looking at the numbers, and I believe you misstated one of the numbers for public transportation. You stated 350,500, but I believe the motion was 353,500.
It is. Would you like me to restate that?
Yes, please.
Okay, councilors, I'm going to restate the dollar amounts for the general fund. The property tax dollars will be reduced. General fund from $17,234,410 to $17,138,420. Public transportation from $414,040 to $353,500. Streets would go from $5,133,000 down to $4,945,000. The total property tax would go $24,524,120 down to $24,179,590. No questions. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carries. Thank you, Councilors. Clerk Rocky.
Mayor, Jennifer Tingano, City Attorney, still need to vote on moving forward with reading the ordinance as amended as well. So that motion that you just approved was to amend the ordinance, and then moving forward with the vote on reading the ordinance as amended.
We do have two motions. Thank you, Jennifer. Councilor, the original motion was moved by Councilor Lickey, second by Councilor Schroeder to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4924. I would entertain a motion. Councilor Kleberg?
No, I'm fine. Oh, amended? Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the amended, second reading amended ordinance 4924.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Kleberg, seconded by Councilor Forsman to approve the second reading of ordinance number 4924 as amended. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Clerk Rocky.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4924, an ordinance of the City of Lewiston fixing and establishing the tax certification on all taxable properties situated within the corporate limits of the City of Lewiston for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, and ending September 30, 2025, for the purpose of providing and raising monies for municipal and corporate purposes, providing for the tax certification to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho, in the amount of $24,179,590, providing a certified copy of the 2025 annual appropriation ordinance to the Board of County Commissioners of Nez Perce County, Idaho, as adopted by the City of Lewiston for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Clerk Rocky. Thank you, Councilors. Next, we move to Roman numeral 5, unfinished and new business. Item A, City Councilor comments. Comments shall not be related to an item currently before the City Council or an item that may come before the City Council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussion. Councilor Kleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this time, I appreciate the people that other take time out of their evening to show up for this meeting. Last week, we didn't have anybody show up. I mean, this is the budget. It's our tax dollars as well as everybody else's in this community. I pay taxes just like everybody else, so thank you very much for showing up. Second, real quick, the lights are flashing back on important streets we have in town for school coming back into session. I'd just like to remind everybody to be careful when they're driving. The kids are all going to be back in school starting on Wednesday, I believe. So when the lights are flashing, slow down. Give the crossing guards a break and watch out for the kids. Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Forsman?
I want to thank our police officers for going out there, especially, I know in the first week of school, they're out there near the schools, enforcing the speed limits, making sure people are being aware, as well as I've seen them out and about a lot. It's good to see, as long as you're obeying the law. So I'm just really thankful for our men and women that protect us every day and keep us safe and look out for our children in this first week of school. And so I just want to extend a thanks and to echo Councilor Kleberg, slow down, be careful, watch for the flashing lights. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Schroeder?
Yes, I just want to give a big shout out to the street department, Public Works Street Department, that did such a great job getting all their work done and all the lines all done. It's all nice and appreciated, and they were very organized and efficient. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Collins? Okay, we'll jump over city boards and commission liaison updates tonight. Mayor comments. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank our city clerk and city attorney for keeping us on track, and our city finance director. It's easy to get lost here, but I think we made it, so thank you for your time. I also have a letter here that I received from the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association, letting the mayor and the council members know that, and I'll just read it how it says. My pleasure to inform you that the Lewiston Police Department has successfully completed the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association's reaccreditation process during an on-site inspection by members of the ICOPA accreditation team on August 9, 2024. Your police department was found to be in full compliance with all accreditation standards set forth by ICOPA. This milestone achievement was accomplished after hundreds of hours of preparation by Lewiston Police Department personnel. Our special thanks go out to Chief Jason Cusick and his command staff for taking this opportunity and putting forth their efforts in meeting the accreditation standards set forth by ICOPA. This is an accomplishment that you and the citizens of Lewiston can be proud of, as it demonstrates your dedication to maintaining a progressive and professional police department for your community. Once again, on behalf of the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association, we congratulate you and your city on this outstanding achievement. Sincerely, David Moore, retired Chief of Police, City of Blackfoot, ICOPA accreditation. Congratulations to you and your department. Thank you. Councilors, we will next move to item D, agenda topics, if there are any. Councilor Speckmeyer?
Mayor, I might need some help wording this one, but I'd like to make a motion to request a performance update from the Lewiston-Nez County Airport Board, specifically the United Airlines performance standards.
Second that.
Moved by Councilor Speckmeyer, seconded by Council President Kleberg to request an update from the Lewiston Airport Authority Board. Specifically an update on the,
I didn't look at the calendar. I was thinking sometime maybe the second regular meeting in September.
okay. Councilor Speckmeyer, if I can share with you, we are going to, it is my intention to call a special meeting in September sometime right after Labor Day, so we don't lose that day. And on that agenda, we were going to have the Lewiston Airport, well, we're going to discuss the United MRG. That might be a good time to have the authority come and they can present that to us, maybe talk about that and
Perfect.
other issues if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay. So the motion would include having that on the work session, special session, the first week of September. By Councilor Speckmeyer, second by Councilor Kleberg. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, councilors. Any other agenda topics? No? Okay. Councilors, we'll move to Roman numeral 6, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Kleberg, second by Councilor Litkey to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.